Hey, it's Marcus, MPenTech, and today we're going to be upgrading the cheap PC we built last month. For those of you new to the channel, welcome. Last month I built the cheapest possible gaming PC using only brand new parts. All the parts had to be from the same retailer, they all had to be in stock, and they all had to be compatible. At the end of that video, I said I was going to set aside £100 each month to upgrade the PC, and I wanted you, the audience, to suggest what parts can go in it. So a big shout out to Christian Anderson, who suggested more RAM, and another big shout out to Spider2470, who suggested we get the Nvidia GeForce GT1030. It was quite a struggle to get both of these parts for under £100, but you know what? I did some shopping around and I managed to pull it off. I managed to get the Zotac GT1030 with 2GB of memory for £67.98 and an 8GB stick of Corsair Value Select RAM for £31.49, bringing the grand total to £99.47. So we barely scraped the budget there. The GT1030 should give us a decent performance upgrade in games. I'm not expecting anything crazy, but we should at least be able to play Deus Ex Mankind Divided on low settings now. I opted for an 8GB stick rather than just simply adding a 4GB stick, as this will allow us to easily go to 16GB in the future by adding another 8GB. So without further ado, let's hop on the system and see how it performs now. So again, we're going to be starting with Skyrim here, and when I first started the game, it actually said that it detected a new graphics card and it's going to set the settings to ultra high, so that's a surprise. So far so good, seems to be loading okay. And there we have it, we are in. Now this is a definite improvement from last time. Look at that, we are now getting in the mid 50 FPS, 1080p high settings on Skyrim. So yeah, what a difference some extra RAM and graphics card makes here. Man, I do miss this game. I think I really want to start this game again and give it another go. Oh, and I just died. Well, that's that. Let's move on to Rocket League. So unlike Skyrim, I don't think Rocket League has picked up on a new graphics card, so let's adjust those settings. So yeah, we're still at performance here, so I'm going to set that to, I'm just going to take it all up to high quality. Let's go for it. Okay, so we are now at 1080p with high quality graphics on Rocket League, and look at that, we are hitting 60 frames per second, ladies and gentlemen. This is so much better. I really have forgotten the buttons for this. Alright, it's right click to jump. Okay, right click to jump. You know what? After playing Fall Guys and their version of this, it makes me really appreciate Rocket League. So yeah, as you can see guys, it's made a massive difference, this graphics card and RAM. But now it's time for the ultimate test. Is it going to be able to run Deus Ex Mankind Divided where it struggled so much before? Alright, so we're going to be starting off Deus Ex Mankind Divided with the same settings that we left it on last time. So that was 720p on the lowest settings. And already, we're at 60 frames in the menus, guys. Wow, huge improvements here. We are in the low 50s in games. Albeit this is still 720p, but you know, massive improvement here. This is definitely playable if you can get past the jagged edges and just generally poor graphics overall, but you know, at least the frame rate's decent. Alright, and so high settings, 720p. This works pretty good. I wouldn't say, I think I'd probably go down to medium, but you know, this isn't too bad. I do feel like there's a slight delay between my mouse movement and the actions that happen on screen. I don't know if you guys can tell that, but yeah, I think this might be down to CPU limitations. Alright, so I'm going to try now go to 1080p, and we'll keep the settings on the same, but we might have to do 1080p medium if I'm honest. So this is 1080p on highest settings, and it's pretty poor. So I'm going to put it back, scale it back down to medium settings, and see what we have there. Okay then, so this is 1080p on medium settings. I think we found the sweet spot now. It's not great, but it's a big improvement. I mean, Maybe actually, you know what, maybe I would say the sweet spot was 720p low settings actually. I think this frame rate is a bit too low, especially for, you know, PC master race. And there's still a bit of input lag, and I'm pretty sure that's down to the lack in raw CPU performance. So yeah, I really hope you guys suggest, you know, a new CPU for the next build. Come on, you know you want to. For the benchmarks, I decided to also see what the performance gains were by simply increasing the RAM and not adding the GPU. The gains, well, they weren't as significant as I would have expected. Shadow of the Tomb Raider had the most gains from increased RAM, with a 42% increase. They went from 12 FPS to 17 FPS at 720p on low settings. On Firestrike and Final Fantasy, the gains were negligible. The reason why I expected more is because when you're using integrated graphics like we are doing, the CPU actually shares some of the RAM for graphics memory. And since our system only has 4GB to play with, this is an extremely finite resource, so I really thought that by doubling it, we'd see a lot more gains here. I think what this tells me is that our system is more constrained by the lack of raw CPU power, and this was confirmed when I added the GPU. Here, we see massive gains in frame rate across the board. Shadow of the Tomb Raider now reaches 45 frames per second on low settings, compared to 12 in our initial build. Another interesting fact here is that the Tomb Raider benchmark actually told me that the system is 0% GPU bound. What that means is that the game was not bottlenecked by the GPU at all, which means it's most likely held up by the CPU, which would correspond with the input lag we saw in Deus Ex. At 1080p, we were able to achieve 33 frames per second, which is just about playable, but you may want to stick at 720p for that smoother gameplay. Final Fantasy Shadowbringers also saw huge increases too, and we managed to hit an average frame rate of 80 here at 720p low. Bumping the settings to 1080p high and the cheap PC hit 26 frames. So we're still quite a way off the flagship gaming rig from a few years ago, but it's an admirable effort. The cheap PC struggled on Firestrike, but it's a noticeable improvement nevertheless. It achieved 16 frames per second here compared to 5 last time. So after those upgrades, we now have something that I would feel much more comfortable in calling a gaming PC. But you know what guys, we can do better. I think what we should do for the next step is to take this PC to a level where it can play 1080p games quite comfortably. Again, it's going to be up to you, the audience, to decide what parts go in this PC by letting me know in the comments below. So that's it for today guys. If you liked it, hit like, hit subscribe, leave a comment, and I'll see you guys on the next one.